1, check 2, check 3.
Hello, can you all hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, good. They don't have that. Yeah.
All right, recording in progress. Sorry. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the county council meeting. I'm going to call our meeting to order. Today is Tuesday, August 22nd, 2023, and this is the meeting of the Monroe County Council. I will note for the record that Councilor Deckard, Councilor Iverson, Councilor Crossley, and myself are in the courtroom in attendance, and Councilor McKim is joining us on Zoom. We do expect others to join us, but we will try to go ahead and get moving because we have a lot on the agenda this evening. So speaking of agenda, let's adopt the agenda. Does anyone wish to add or remove or change any items on the agenda this evening? Yes, Councilor Iverson.
Yes, Madam President, I would request council's approval to move item 14A, which is a review of a potential cost of living adjustment COLA increase, to right after the public comment number 3, and move department updates and council liaison updates to the end of the agenda. Yeah, I can repeat that once everyone gets settled. Yeah.
Okay. Is she here? Okay, well, we will wait just a second.
What number did you say you were moving?
Conversation.
Everything to where?
14A.
It's going right after public comment, so it's number 4.
If you're gonna have a conversation, you need to turn your mics on.
Sorry, I was just trying to translate the motion for Counselor Hawk while we wait.
On higher or lower, Sharon?
Oh, hi.
On chair or something?
No, I'm good, thanks. Sorry to
Welcome.
interrupt with my slow
No,
dramatic entrance.
we're glad to see you in person. So
Madam President, do you want me to restate my motion?
yes, and I'd like to state first for the record that Counselor Munson and Counselor Hawk have joined us in person. Please go ahead.
All right, Madam President, I request that we move items 14A and B. That is, A is the review of the potential cost of living adjustment increase, and B is the first reading and discussion of ordinance 2023-28 to the beginning of our agenda directly after number 3, public comment. And I would simultaneously ask that we move items 4 and 5, department updates and council liaison updates, to the end of our agenda.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion on this matter? Questions, comments from council? All right, seeing none, then could we have a roll call vote on the amendment?
Counselor Deckard,
Yes.
Counselor McKim,
Yes.
Counselor Crossley,
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz,
Yes,
Counselor Iverson,
Yes.
Counselor Munson,
Yes.
Counselor Hawk.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimous.
thank you. Are there any other changes to the agenda that anyone would like to make? Seeing none, let's move on to item 3 on the agenda, which is public comment for items not on our agenda. And if there are any members of the public who would like to make comment here in the Nat U Hill Room, please go ahead and walk up to the podium. Online, please raise your hand and we will get to you. I see no public comment at this time, so we will move to item 14A, which let me get to in my agenda here. And that is from our own council office.
Council, I moved open for discussion or review potential cost of living cost of living adjustment increases.
Second.
Thank you. So, as many of you know, this is our first opportunity to have a discussion about what possible cost of living adjustments we can consider for the 2024 fiscal year. Just discussion, no decisions are being made this evening. Just wanted to get some information from our office on possible fiscal impacts and allow counselors to ask questions, make suggestions so that we are more prepared as we go into our budget sessions. Are there any questions to start us off from council? Yeah, go right ahead.
Okay, so now we're talking about what is available for cost of living.
Mhm.
And I would, I'm open to hearing all the suggestions, but I also believe that it is the auditor who will be making a major information for us to look at the revenues and look at the budgeted expenditures. And so I did receive a message from her, and she will be back in the office tomorrow, but not tonight. So I believe this should just be open for discussion, but until we hear from her, I would not want to think we would make any decision.
Absolutely. Although we do have a representative from the auditor's office here. Did you have anything from the auditor that you wanted to share? I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but if you did have something, I wanted to give you the opportunity.
The auditor supports the commissioner's recommendation of 8.5%. However, she will be back in office this week later to discuss further and provide more
Okay.
information.
So she supports 8.5, but we have no other detail. Okay. Good to know. Counselor McKim.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to throw out a couple of numbers that, you know, are kind of guideposts in the discussion here. First of all, we always, you know, per our own policy and practice, we at least we're supposed to consider the basing a cost of living adjustment on the previous December to December Midwest CPI change. And in this case, that number is 6%. So, and that's easy to find. You can just Google Midwest CPI and you'll see that number from December to December, that the inflation rate was 6%. So at the very least, you know, our policy doesn't say we have to adopt that because of course we may not have the revenue, but we should at least consider it. So there's 6%. Then the other big question is, honestly, how much did our revenue increase? I mean, we are unlike a private business. We can't just raise our prices to be able to pay our employees more. We take what we can get from taxes. And kind of just to start out, the first thing we need to do is look at the draft 4Bs that have been sent out from the auditor's office. And you know, we may want to, we'll probably want to return to this in more detail, but you know, just off the cuff, it looks like the right now with the budgets as submitted with zero cost of living adjustment, it looks like the budget for the general fund is $2.55 million over revenue. So that is essentially a deficit of $2.5 million at, you know, as of today, without any kind of cost of living adjustment at all. Almost 2.6, actually 2.595, so $2.6 million. So that's another figure to look at. Then another way to look at it is since we have to pay for this with revenue, what cost of living adjustment has the county received essentially in tax revenue that would allow us to fund any kind of raise? And, you know, there are two big numbers that make that up. There's property tax and income tax. We already know that the property tax maximum levy growth quotient increase is 4%. So essentially our property tax, now of course we kind of divide that increase over all the funds of the frozen levy, but if we applied it to the general fund individually, you know, we're talking about a 4% increase in the property tax. And then there's the income tax, which is our other big revenue source. And literally that data just came out, I don't know, an hour or two ago from the state. And it looks, just from my quick calculations, that increase is about 3.84%. So it's just a tad under 4%. But, you know, we can, for the sake of argument, we can call that 4%. So essentially what we have to work with is an increase in revenue of 4%. You know, I think it's easy to make the case that all of that increase should be paid out to county employees. The question is how much more than that increase, you know, how much deeper a deficit do I want our budget to include? So those to me are the main numbers you want to consider: the CPI, the property tax and income tax, and the deficit compared to the budget as submitted.
Thank you. That's nice to have that laid out. Yeah, Counselor Hawk.
Yes, I know that in the past we relied heavily on reversions, but I will say that with our jail and with our sheriff's department, because we did give them a substantial increase and it made it easier for them to recruit. Still not easy, but easier than it was. They've been able to fill those slots and fill them quicker. And so those large reversions that we've seen in the past, we don't expect them to be of the same substantial amount. Just for that reason. And also when I received information from these are the new positions that's being added, but they did not include the new positions added in the jail budget, which is for 3 new positions under that contract and that is included for mental health. And that is a rather large increase. That's $536,000 right there just for that portion of it. Altogether, it looks like we have an increase of adding those 2 together because we have, the whole total we're looking at general, in just the general, looks like it's $1,651,428. And then in public safety lit, it's now going to be an additional 96,657. But what we've got to look at is not just what the increase is that's been requested for the budget request, because these budget requests are not all salaried. A lot of them are for some of these bigger contracts, such as with the jail. So I just think that, and another big one is the pension fund, another $153,508 just for the increase in the pension fund. So we have a lot of, rather large dollar amounts. And with our general fund, that 4% is only 800, listen, that's still a lot of money, $813,593. So then you add on what we think the public safety tax is going to bring in. And so we know that it's going to be difficult to do everything we want to do. Now, I do believe that something is going to be helpful is what we're going to be hearing next is moving that $400 and some thousand over to help us out with those expenses.
Mhm.
And it's easy enough to say, give everybody an 8.5% raise and hey, folks, you want to vote for that? I'd be happy to support it. I just need to see the numbers. And so.
Counselor Munson, sorry.
One thing that I think would help us all in evaluating revenues and likely expenses would be to have an understanding of this year's reversions relative to our history of reversions, because we have relied on those substantially in the past. And we just need to bring that into our thinking about this. Thank you.
I was just going to say, I appreciate the comments that have been made. We certainly, as every counselor knows, we've heard from elected officials and department heads, their thoughts, and even county employees on their thoughts about this. We know that this is a very near and dear issue, very heartfelt. It seems like this time of year, I always end up saying something like this, but I'm going to say this again. Everything that we approach, and we're entering budget season, requires us to be artful, to get numbers, to figure out what we can figure out, what we can do. It does come down to money you have available, what you can do with those dollars. But for instance, what Councilor Hawk was talking about with what our next item agenda is things like that help us. I think we're figuring out what all those things are as we figure this out. We know with this being a near and dear subject to every single member of our beloved county personnel is part of the process, but we do this every year as we kind of figure this out and get to the finish line.
Counselor Crossley and then Counselor Iverson.
Okay, thank you. I'll make a comment first and then I'll have a question here in a little bit. I know NetU Hill Room is full of people of county employees, so I appreciate everybody taking their time to come out and hear the discussion, which is only what it is, a discussion of what we are having, and I'm glad we are having this. I also wanted to say thank you for the many emails that we received today from county employees explaining various things of prescription, daycare bills, just cost of living, making living an affordable wage to live here, all of those different things. So I just want to make sure that you all know that this did not fall on deaf ears. I tried to respond in my full-time job as much as I could take a break from that to respond to everything. Didn't get to everybody, but please know that's what I feel, and I'm sure sentiments of the rest of the council feel the same way. Yeah. So that being said, all of us I feel the pain of people sending the emails. I think I'm the only person that's here. I rent because I cannot afford too much to purchase home because it is crazy expensive, as we all know here. I tell this story not as a pity party, but just so that everybody knows that there are people here that really truly hear what you're saying. It is not falling on deaf ears. We do truly appreciate it. So I just want to make sure that that is duly noted, heartfelt, take it as you will, but that's what it is coming from me. It also has given me much thought of things because what does this say to our employees? Of course, as Councilor Hawk said, we have to figure all of this out. It's not easy, but also we know that taking this job as county council members is not easy at all. So we have the beautiful task of trying to figure this out. And will we make everybody happy? We might not. But our goal is to make sure that county employees know that you are all valued and respected each and every day. You all are what makes this county move forward, even when, yes. So that being said, I am always a firm believer, walking the walk and talking the talk. And I guess in thinking of all the emails that have been sent and pondering on all of this information, I don't know if Ms. Turner King or somebody from the auditor's office would be able to ask this. I guess I know that certain elected positions are, salaries are mandated by the state. So that's something that we cannot touch. But as elected officials, I did not take this position just for the money because I didn't take that for that. I did it because I wanted to be a public servant. But I also think that it says something for us to say, maybe we can take a pledge as elected officials and say we can go on a salary freeze for a possible 3 years. This is just my thoughts, nobody else's, but just hypothetically speaking, I guess I would just like to know what the fiscal impact would be, if anybody would know what that would look like if something like that were to happen.
In conferring with Ms. Gregory, we can look into that and provide the data to the council.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Speaking of data to the council, pages 77 and 78 of our packet have some really, really informative calculations. And I was wondering if we could spend some time walking through those.
Sure. Ms. Shell, would you be able to share your screen? And I see that Councilor McKim has his hand raised. Did you have?
Actually, I was going to ask the exact same thing. So
okay.
lower my hand.
Let's pull that up and then we'll take a look. Yeah, I think the amended one would be good. And if you could zoom in just a little bit more, you can kind of eliminate the margins on the side there. Yeah. So what you've done is you've taken the 2023 salary that was approved. You did go ahead and then add in those 15% increases from last December. And so you have the amended total there at the top right. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Great. Could you then walk us through the table below, just kind of give an overview of what the columns indicate?
Yes, so this is to give you kind of an apples to apples comparison of what the 2023 salaries that were approved and that include the FICA and the PERF. And so I took that number, and you can see in that light yellow that that's the equivalent flat amount. I was asked for that. But then I took that number and multiplied it out with the percentages going from 1% down to 8.5. And so you have, so that you can see how much the COLA increase itself would be. So for each percentage, and then the amount of the cost of the FICA and PERF with regards to that amount on top of this 39 million. And so then you would end up with the 39,797,880. So then it just progresses down with that each percentage. And then this way you can see the difference between what the approved amended salaries, and this is all funds, not just general, this is all funds that have personnel, compared to the amended 2024 amounts with FICA and PERF. And so that, which leaves, gives you the difference or the cost, what it would cost you to implement those different percentages. And that's across all funds.
Looking at the column proposed COLA increase via percentage, that percentage is taken from the total from 2023 before you made the amendments. Is that correct?
Which one are you talking about?
The 323,380 right there above the cursor. Maybe that's my, that's my cursor. Never mind. In the proposed COLA via percentage right there. Yes.
Right there.
That's 1% of.
Yes, that's taking the 39,403,841 with the COLA increase and then the FICA on top, FICA and PERF on top of that.
I just lost my connection.
I did too. I pulled out of it.
Okay. So, got it. Okay. The 32,337 does include, so that column there at the very top where what you did was you took out the approved amounts from our 2023 budget and added in the revised amounts.
Correct.
And that then gives us a new total of 32,337.
Right. So then, and that's just salaries.
So then you
only.
added in the FICA. Got it.
Yeah. And so then I added in the FICA and the PERF to get the 39,403,841.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's that, and that's just, an estimate because I was going by what was actually approved at the last year's budget.
Counselor Iverson.
I wanted to clarify, Ms. Shell, can you scroll down just a little bit? That very far left-hand column, MLGQ stands for maximum levy growth quotient. That's the 4% that the state sets. CPI is the Consumer Price Index. That's the inflationary measure that Councilmember McKim was talking about, and the rest are self-explanatory. But I wanted to make sure that we didn't let acronyms stand in our way of understanding.
Councilman Munson.
I would like to follow up on Councilor Iverson's annotations. The growth quotient number of 4% is set by the state legislature. And there has been a formula for doing that that has been followed year to year to year. And most department heads and financial managers are familiar with this. The numbers this year would have been 5%. But the legislature decided to cut it to 4% and give us less revenue to be able to work with because they wanted to be in charge of how that money was spent. Thank you.
Yep, that's absolutely right.
Okay, when the state, I followed all those meetings, and that's why I spent so much of my time with. When they saw what was happening with the growth in the assessed value throughout the state and what was going to happen with the revenue that was on the rate control funds, we got two different kinds of funds. We got levy control funds and we have rate control funds. And so what they're tying it to, that 4%, is the levy control fund. That means that's inside that frozen levy. We know there's several inside that frozen levy that could not increase any more than 4%. They also know, and we're told over and over again, the reason why everybody's taxes were going up so much was not just because of the growth in assessed value, but because you got that tax rate that set the cum rates that are at rate controlled. That rate times a much higher assessed value brings in a whole flush of money that the taxpayers out there are paying for. And so they were trying to figure out a way that just for a couple of years, this is not forever, this is just for a couple of years, there was two, that they're going to hold us back in our spending so that, and give the taxpayers a break. It wasn't so they could use the extra money because that didn't give them an extra penny at all. What they actually did was they cut the sales tax that would normally go, the income tax that would normally go to the state, and freed that up for the locals to use. And that's why some of these options are out there for us to increase the income tax. So it's not like as if they took the money and kept it back in there. That's not how it worked. But however we got to where we are is where we are. And
which is less money for us to be able to use and still more money being taken from the taxpayer.
Right.
Fantastic.
And while it's less money on that levy control, there is more money allowed to be used from the income tax. So we got what we got. But if that annexation goes through, that additional revenue we're counting on for all that income tax, plus all those other miscellaneous taxes, will really be reduced.
Yeah, that's
when we'll have some really heartache here.
Councilor McKim.
Yeah, so just so we can quantify what that difference is for the general fund, if we had received what we would have received had the General Assembly not changed the rules, would have been about an extra $250,000. So it doesn't by a long shot make up the difference in what we would need to make up, but it's about $250,000 difference that we lost because of the new temporary formula for tax relief for homeowners. The other thing is, can we go back to those numbers that Michelle was presenting? Thanks. Okay, so for example, if we look at CPI, let's look at the green bar. Kim, do you have a sense of? I always feel like seeing all the personnel together is not as useful as seeing it broken out by fund. Do you have a sense of what percentage of that number would be represented by the general fund? You do.
I do. right? I did a chart of just the general fund.
Okay. What is that? I'm sorry. It's too small for me to read without my reading glasses, which I don't have here.
Does that help?
Okay, so that's. Oh,
Whoops, sorry.
Okay, so $1.6 million. Great.
Are you looking at the 6%, Jeff?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. I was just trying to read the CPI. You know, I feel like that's the most. That's the number we have to defend doing anything lower than is the CPI. So I kind of I like that number as a bogey, even though I know
Right.
our revenue
This
increase
is,
was
this is on page 79 of the packet,
Yeah.
if you're looking at the packet.
Okay, so essentially $1.6 million additional in the general fund. And so right now, according to the 4Bs, which we don't have in front of us, but it had been sent out by Ms. Gregory earlier, we're about $2.6 million in deficit. So that would add 3.6, 4. So we'd be in $4.2 million in deficit, which we could bring back down a little bit, bring back down by 400,000 or more by adopting the corrections tax that we had talked to. Okay. I just wanted to make sure we kind of knew what we were looking at. Thank you, Kim. That's great.
Thanks. Other comments or questions from council?
It's been a while since I worked those numbers, but what I was looking at when they were talking about the increase that the state put in place for probation, was it 4.4? What was that? I mean, 7 point.
Oh,
What was it for
7.8.
states? It was 7 something, but I took a look at it and thought, well, okay, if we allowed probation to have part of our local funds to bring them up to 5% last year or this year, and in order for us to make us even for where they would be ending up now, we'd have to put in about a 6.1% increase. Wish I'd written that down because now I'm trying to figure out how I arrived at that. But in other words, for us to come out even with where probation ended up, because they got a 3 something last year and a 7 point something this year. And so we got a 5. So we take that away from the total of those 2 years. So we got a 5. Then take that away from the total that probation would have been getting in order for us to just almost try to keep it even. I think it was at 6.1.
I think I understand what you're saying.
But I also was assuming that they would, the ones who received additional to get it up to 5, what we had agreed, I thought we agreed was that the state would make up the difference at some point and get it up higher than 5. And so they did. So I would not think that we would, whatever, I know you guys could do what you're going to do. I'm just trying to make it fair.
Are you suggesting then that the probation officers not receive as much of a COLA this year from us?
I just think they ought to get what the state said they were going to get from where they were supposed to get last year and add that 7 something on top of what they were supposed to get last year and see where they are this year, because between the two,
I see.
they got,
Yeah.
more than probably. I did have a conversation with some of the probation people about this, so it's not like I said, I'm throwing this out wild.
Yeah, well, it's one strategy. Councilor Munson.
So I just want to remind us all that the reason we increased the probation COLA last year was for greater equity for county employees. And I think that is still our primary philosophy.
Right. And just like what we did for the jail and law enforcement. So I'm not saying that we shouldn't, because I certainly want to make sure that the jailers and law enforcement get the raise and that they are not chastised this year because they got a raise last year, as they should have done.
Mhm.
It's all budgets. It's all money.
It's all money. Counselor
Well,
Deckard.
And what I would add to this discussion is I think it's very important that this council be very cautious about picking winners and not and losers. I'll just say it on this, and that we be exceedingly mindful that we have a lot of individuals involved in this, care about this clearly, right? And have strong thoughts on it. And we have a strong duty to figure out what we can do, how artfully we do it, and what that looks like in this budget. And I think we've talked a little bit about, of course, the percentage options as laid out here. We've talked about some of the state issues that don't matter as much to folks, but I think our next task, and it's not going to be right here, it's going to be with our homework, our diligence, and our duty, is to figure out artfully what we can do on that scale and how we pay for it. I mean, I don't want to overstate what the obvious, but again, always get real nervous when we start talking about someone, we gotta be careful with that.
Agreed. However, I'm curious as to the options we have, knowing that we are following guidelines that were provided to us a couple of years ago by our consultant, and kind of set up the grids to align more equitably. To what extent are we able to implement something that would raise the lower end of those grids more than the higher end? And to what extent does that fly in the face of everything our consultants have told us to do? Which I have a feeling I know the answer to that. But that's where my mind goes, is if we're going to talk about doing something that's not straight across the board, X% for every single person, the way I would look at dividing things is everybody below a certain salary gets more. Simply because I am sensitive to the struggles that folks are having. I mean, inflation affects everybody, but it affects some people more. Yes.
That's the reason why when you do a flat amount, it really helps the ones on the lower end. Do have to be careful because then sometimes that skews the whole balance. But
right.
I do think that that's why I like doing the flat, because it does really help the people who make the least amount of money.
Agreed. That's why I have it put in there, just to kind of see what it would look like. Go ahead.
I want to add on to that point that historically the council has alternated between flat increases and percentage increases. And I think that's been a helpful practice. At least that's what I hear.
Yeah. Are there other thoughts or suggestions or wild, crazy ideas that anyone else would like to share on this topic? Questions? Councilor McCann.
Yeah, I guess this isn't a question. This is just more of a comment. We have our work cut out for us. This is, if we want to come anywhere near even that 6% or higher, we are going to have to pass the corrections tax that we're going to be doing first reading for next. That I think is kind of a given. And we're going to have to look very hard and do some cutting from departmental budget requests. We will not be able to fund this if we just pass the budget requests as they've been submitted. And, this is one of the situations where, maybe department heads may want to think about what if they can leave any positions vacant, and then that leaves additional money that could be given entirely to salaries, to 100% to cost of living increase. But we have our work cut out for us. We cannot afford to given the deficit numbers we've already seen. We can't afford to pass that budget as is.
Right.
So
I just want to say that, as a reminder to the council, we did have a hiring freeze for a while, as a few years ago, where if something became vacant, it was vacant for the remainder of the year. So unless it was just one of those, absolutely, but
yeah, I'm saying department heads can help out here. This is not, can help out by leaving positions vacant, and we can use that money to grant salary increases.
Well, and perhaps thinking carefully about other categories in the same fund as well. So within the department budgets, maybe there are other things that could be examined. And it would be immensely helpful if everyone could look at their budgets between now and the hearings and be thinking about that. Because to Councilor McKim's point, we're in a bit of a bind, and we want to do right by our people. So that's that. Yes.
I know that we're having a budget for next year. It's going to be a heavier year for the election budget. So I've asked for that to be looked at to see if we're putting enough money in there. A few years ago, we said we were going to keep growing that by 400,000 every year, so that when presidential election showed up in 4 years, we'd have, 4 times 4 to cover it. Is that going to be enough to cover it, or do we need more? I don't know. I mean, all we know is what they turned in, and hopefully. But I mean, if there could be some money saved on that, but I sort of doubt it. I think it's going to be an expensive election year. Yeah. So it's not just the general fund; it's all those other funds, because that levy has to be shared with the other funds within the frozen levy. So if you see those balances coming down too far, we're going to have to then take money from the general levy and move it over during budget season, because we cannot take it from one fund and move it to another fund after you've established it. It takes the whole year before you can start moving around those dollars. So if I think that in the past, I believe, I remember right, that the auditor was saying, let's not let that so much cash set in each of those other funds. Let's pull it back into the general fund. But when is the time that we've got to start putting it back? And that's
a good question.
So these are things that I'm sure the auditor will be happy to share with us, her thoughts on it. Because that's her job after all. It's our job to look at the numbers and decide.
Councilor McKim?
Well, and I'm going to say some of that is just, you can see in the 4Bs that the auditor's office has provided so far. I mean, you can see those allocations, and we can see where, for example, the election fund is. And, it looks like the operating balances have been reduced appropriately, to a lower amount for the other funds in the frozen levy, while the operating balance of the general fund is still, has been allowed to essentially be our savings account. I think that's exactly the approach I would support.
Right. Okay, are there other council comments or questions on this topic? I have the time is 6:18, and we have said in our agenda that we will start the Sophia Travis grants agenda item at 6:30. That gives us a little over 10 minutes that we could accept some public comment on this. Just limit it to 10 minutes. We can then have our agenda item on time at 6:30 and then go back to our regular agenda. Does that seem like a?
Given the preponderance of attendance tonight, I think that's a
know.
very good idea.
I thought we were going to consider do the first reading of are we not going to do the first reading of the jail before
Before Sophia Travis?
right, before moving on to the rest? That was the motion we voted for at the beginning of the meeting.
Okay, so forego public comment on this issue.
No, that gives you, it was just first reading. It just means you have maybe 8 minutes instead of 10. That's all I'm saying.
Maybe you have, okay, all right. So we're gonna do 14B and then have comment on 14A. Is that what I'm understanding? Okay, thank you. I just want to make sure I'm getting it right. All right, so please move to 14B, knowing that we'll come back.
Council, I move to open for discussion and to establish as this first reading of ordinance 2023-28, an ordinance modifying local income tax rates for Monroe County as a need now exists to modify the local income tax rates that is outlined in the ordinance included in this packet.
Second.
Are there council questions or comments on this first reading? It reflects what we discussed at our last meeting.
We discussed this a lot at our last. Yeah.
Can Ms. Turner King just give just a synopsis of the process, just so we know what's next?
So after the first reading, we have to publish notice before a vote can be taken. That notice has to be published 10 days in advance of the vote. That has already been published, and a public hearing on the proposed tax ordinance is scheduled for August 29th.
Thank you.
When this is read, you have to do every bit of each one. To have it in writing what you're supposed to say, to put it on the floor.
He just said as outlined in the packet.
Because you have to say so much for each percent for each, like so much for special purpose, so much for community corrections.
Ms. Turner King, do you need to?
Yeah, do I need to add to what I've said?
It's in the
on the
description,
chart.
even on the agenda item, I believe. So you could just
Have to
add,
read in all of them. Or have Jeff read it in or something. There we go. Let's get it right.
Are we saying the allocation rate categories that to read that into the record with that?
yeah.
I think you can read it in the record if you like. I don't think you are required to read it.
Okay.
I think you are.
Okay, I'm going to do an allocation rate category. Certified shares IC 6-3.6-6 0.9482%. Existing lit rate, proposed lit rate 0.9482%. Public safety IC 6-3.6-6 0.25%. Existing lit rate, proposed lit rate 0.25%. Economic development IC 6-3.6-6 0.69%. Existing lit rate, proposed lit rate 0.69%. Property tax relief rate IC 6-3.6-5 0.0518%. Existing lit rate, proposed lit rate 0.0518%. Special purpose rate IC 6-3.6-7 0.095%. Existing lit rate 0.085%. Proposed lit rate. Correctional rehabilitation facilities 0.00%. Proposed lit rate 0.01%. Emergency medical service IC 6-3.6-6.6-2.8. Let me say it one more time for clarity. IC 6-3.6-6-2.8. 0% existing lit rate, 0% proposed lit rate. Staff expense for state judicial system IC 6-3.6-6-2.9. 0% existing lit rate, proposed lit rate 0%. Total tax rate 2.035%. Existing lit rate, proposed lit rate 2.035%.
Thank you. With that, Counselor McKim.
Just to summarize for the public, this raises about $400,000 that the county can then use to fund, for example, these cost of living increases that we've been discussing, and no net impact on the taxpayer.
Right.
Second.
Thank you. There's no further comment on this item. Let's go ahead and jump back. We now have 6 minutes before Sophia Travis Grant will start. So if there are members of the public who would like to make a comment, I would request that you come up to the podium if you're here in the Nat U Hill room.
I'm sorry. When we read that for the first time, are we required to take, is this like the public hearing for that? If so, we need to ask the public if anybody wants to speak to that. I don't know. We don't normally change these rates.
Right.
I just want to make sure we don't miss one little step.
Got it.
When are we required to take public comment on this to be official? The next meeting?
At the public hearing and discussing with DLGF, what they look at is the date of our notice and the date of the vote. And that's what they care about. I don't even think they look to see if we did a first reading. That's what DLGF has advised. So that's what I was going by.
I think we need to go by the book because we got in trouble with this before.
Well, that's what we have our.
Yeah, I think there've been many conversations, so I'm gonna trust our counsel. So public comment, please come on up and we'll have a 3-minute timer for comment. Oh, sure. Yeah, sit here.
We want you to be comfortable.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
All right. Hello, council. Thank you so much. I am going to be quick. I want you to know that I have 3 members of my staff here that came to talk, but since we only have such limited time, it's just going to be me. So I can be brief because I've got a plan. Okay. Financial health and stability of county government rests with our employees. We need fair compensation across the state for county employees, across the state. Speakers at county conferences that I've been to, AIC and treasurers, speakers are talking about this. State Board of Accounts Director Paul Joyce stated it in 2022 and this year. The counties must improve compensation to their employees if they want to ensure effective financial management, ethical conduct in every department, and accountability in handling public funds. So all counties are underpaying their employees, and it will have wide-reaching effects in governance across the state. And now I just really quickly want to share with you what I see employees are feeling on the ground every day when I come to work, and just some kind of general concepts that I think you should be aware of that come from this. So our employees are feeling dissatisfaction, lack of motivation, while at the same time, county government is becoming very complex. The funding is complex and the compliance with the funding is complex. Our services that the county provides becomes more complex as we set higher goals. Adequate compensation can attract employees who are willing to face the various risks in managing public funds. Low pay encourages incompetence and negligence. There are ethical concerns to not paying employees a living wage. County employees in Monroe County are likely to be living in financial hardship from what I have seen. In my office, all are struggling to pay basic needs. Those are food, housing, healthcare, childcare, and education. The stress of the difficult work that county employees do, and combined with the stress of financial hardship, makes our employees feel exploited. Low pay leads to corruption. Low pay leads to unethical behavior. When employees are compensated fairly, it sends a message of responsible governance. And finally, county employees do feel low morale. They feel that there is unjust treatments of some departments that get better pay based on a job description that might not reflect their actual responsibilities. This is what I am hearing from many employees. They feel that there is no justification for low pay when you are working just as hard or harder than someone who has almost the same actual daily job as you in a different office. They feel like there is no reward for their technical knowledge of how to comply with the complex, sometimes unclear and ever-changing Indiana law that affects their jobs. Just in our office alone, State Board of Accounts has told me that some of the things we have to do, the compliance gives State Board of Accounts nightmares. So they are experts in their field, with no one in the county who knows how to do what they do, and they are simply a comic classification. It makes morale very low. Living wage calculators and indicators for Bloomington vary, but all COMET and CivPol classifications are barely a living wage after 8 years of employment. Who can wait that long? Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have 1 minute left, and I do see a hand raised online. So Ms. Nestor Jelen, would you like to go ahead and speak?
Hi there. Thank you, Council. I'll make it very brief. I also want to just echo what our treasurer just was able to speak to in terms of low morale for county employees. I just want to say a few things. I would support a retention bonus going back in if that were a consideration. The only thing about the retention bonus, though, is that from year to year, it has to be approved. I think that a flat rate increase could help a lot of our employees that are at the lower pay end make ends meet, because we do see that inflation has been hitting people very hard, especially those at the lower pay end. I also want to mention that we in our office have a very high requirement for education. All of our planners, of which we have 4, require a master's degree. And just a quick look at the Bureau of Labor Statistics, they're being paid 22% less than the Indiana average. So that does lead to a lot of turnover. I know there's discussion about revenue, and your job is very difficult in terms of making sure that everything equals out. But I do want you to consider the cost of turnover at the county and the cost of vacancies. It does lead to more issues of making errors. It leads to less public service to people, and it also just leads to lower morale and overall staffing issues. So we do want to see our vacancies filled. We do want to see people paid well, and I do encourage you to consider people at the bottom with a flat rate increase as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you. We're gonna have to pause. Go ahead.
Yes. I have Allie with the assessor's office. She has small children at home, and so she was not going to be able to stay. I don't think she's here. Is Allie here from the assessors? So I wanted to share her thoughts since she cannot be here. So I'll read it real quick. I have heard you are discussing a cost of living increase for county employees and wanted to hear from some of us on our costs. So I wanted to give you an idea of the expense raising 2 toddlers today. I pay $600 a month for my 4-year-old to go to pre-K at Lakeview. I also pay $180 a week for my 2-year-old to go today daycare 2 days a week. A lot of diapers for my 2-year-old is $39, and that last 2 weeks. Baby wipes are $10 for 2 weeks. So that's $200 a month. Plus there's diaper cream and flushable wipes and nighttime pull-ups for a 4-year-old. So that's another $50 a month. Food prices are astronomical. We go through well over $1,000 a month in groceries for our family of 4. Just to recap, those basic costs of having a 2- and 4-year-old. $600 a month for pre-K in a public school, $720 a month for daycare, 2 days a week for a 2-year-old, $250 potty-related supplies, and $1,000 worth of groceries, totaling $2,570 a month. After taxes and health insurance for my family, I bring home $1,166 biweekly. That is $2,332 a month. Now, she goes on to talk about how much the other expenses are rising, and I think everybody has done that. But what I wanted to share with you in particular is because I want to skip down and save some time here. She said, with that said, I would also like to speak the assessor's employees designation as comment positions and not pat within the salary schedule. I plan to bring these up at the meeting tonight, but I'm unable to attend. I'm the GIS Assessment Specialist Deputy in the Monroe County Assessor's Office. I work full-time in the Assessor's Office for 15 years, and I am certified as a level 3 certified assessor. Boy, that is hard to get. My job description is listed as a comment C, which is the higher of the 2 salaries available in our office. So there's still a comment. She's saying, I'm not saying that those are listed as Pat doesn't work any harder or any lesser than any of us in the assessor's office, because we all know that's not the case. I want to submit that we are as worthy of the Pat classification due to our certification and our technical expertise. I'm reading fast. I understand the WIS study put our position in these categories, but can the 3-page description really do this career justice? She goes on to talk about other positions, maybe in the auditor's office and the treasurer's office, who are at Pat levels, and they are still sitting there at comment levels. So I expect they're going to want to come to PAC maybe to get a desk audit or something of the sort. I don't want to read the rest of it. It'll take too long because I know we're out of time. But I hope you'll all take the chance to read this entire description of their jobs, because I don't think, unless you go into that office and see what they actually do, that it's hard to comprehend just how detailed and how important these jobs are. And the interaction they have with the public to help them understand why these properties are being assessed as they are. So I offer you that. Just read this and you'll maybe have a better understanding of what they do, because it talks about everything that the auditor's office is doing with a PAT position. Then they have to do the same sort of a thing and react to it in the assessor's office, and yet they're sitting there at comment when others are sitting there at PAT. So people are starting to pay attention, folks, as they should. It's their money they take home and they work hard for it.
Thank you.
Who's left? Is that the assessor's office?
So I appreciate that email. I think we all received it, and it was very articulate. It was one of many we received today, and I did have the luxury of having the day off work so that I was able to read them all. Not usually able to do that on the day of a meeting, but certainly appreciate the sentiments expressed. We can continue public comment on this item after the Sophia Travis grants item. If I'll check back in with council to see, but we did indicate that we would start that item at 6:30. We're running a little behind, so let's go ahead and close public comment for now and start our agenda item for Sophia Travis grants.
They need to go home. They got campus.
Okay. We're having a changing of the guard in the back gallery. All right. Cheryl Munson chairs this committee for the council, so I'm going to turn this over to Councilor Munson so that she can get us started.
Hello. Hello, Monroe County and Council. I'm very happy to once again talk about the Sophia Travis Grants Program and bring to you tonight's recommended awardees. For those who don't know, the Sophia Travis Grants Program was established in 2008. And the only council member who is still among us that was part of this is Councilor McKim. And so 2008 was a banner year for county government to start a program to help fund community services that are not normally funded by county government.
Do you think we could close the door to the
helpful.
room? Could somebody please just so that we can hear? Thank you.
I do want that. So since 2008, the council has awarded $1,672,520 to 87 organizations and agencies. And that's in grant funds over a 15-year period. And that 1 million sounds so great, but it's really not a large amount when you think of it year by year. As before, we have a 5-member committee that reviews grant proposals. And this year, I'm happy to announce that Jean Kapler is back with us for a second year. And Hattie Lou Johnson has joined us for this year and will be here next year. And these ladies will be presenting our recommendations in just a minute. Also on the committee are Peter Iverson, Jennifer Crossley, and myself as the 2 council members. So we think this is a great committee structure to have 2 members of the public as well as members of the council. And the amounts that we will discuss are not final until the council members themselves consider them and vote upon them. So just briefly, the grant proposals are considered for projects relating to climate change, emergency shortages, excellence in government, first responders, health, food, nutrition, security and shelter, transportation assistance, veterans assistance, and youth enrichment opportunities. I think you can see that we covered the whole gamut almost. We do have evaluation criteria, and these are important. Programs must primarily serve Monroe County residents. Whether the dollar amount sought will likely accomplish the goals of the proposal. Whether the funds sought will leverage additional funds or assistance, bring it in, create synergy. Support for basic operational expenses will be considered, but these are not given the highest priority. Support for salaries will be considered, but again, will not be given the highest priority. So we are buying things like trucks, tires, etc. Completion of all required reports from previous Sophia Travis grant cycles is another criteria. To be awarded in 2023, we had in our council budget the sum of $160,380. There were 38 qualified applicants. They requested $284,927. So I think you can see the disjunction. And there were no proposals that received the exact amount requested. We made recommendations based on what we thought were the best for the council to consider. And now I'd like to ask Jean Kapler and Hattie Lou Johnson to present the recommendations.
Thank you very much for having us here and considering our recommendations. The first applicant was 4-H Monroe County for Farm to School Field Trips project, and we recommend $6,720.
Next is Alexandra's Army for the 2023 capital projects in a total amount of $2,210.
Next is All Options for their Hoosier Diaper Program. We're recommending $3,800.
Next is Amethyst House, Residential Food and Treatment Assessment Tools for $5,050.
Area 10 Agency on Aging, the Adult Guardianship Program, $2,820.
Beacon Incorporated, Clean Laundry for Individuals Experiencing Homelessness, $6,600.
Beloved Transportation Incorporated, Help is on the Way project, $3,510.
Big Brother, Big Sister, One-to-One plus Mentoring, $3,300.
The Boys and Girls Club for Safety Film, $5,300.
Cancer Support Community, Financial Assistance for Cancer Patients, $4,930.
Catholic Charities, Caring for clients through emergency preparedness, $4,290.
The Chamber Foundation Career Cruise, $1,540.
Community Justice and Mediation Center, Program Materials and Training Scholarships, $2,380.
Community Kitchen for food purchases, $8,500.
Courage to Change Sober Living for case or house manager salary in the new men's residence, $4,190.
First Christian Church, The Welcome Table, $2,940.
Girls Inc. for Her Health Initiative, $3,690.
Girls Rock, Bloomington Summer Camp, $3,740.
Grace Center for food purchase, $4,250.
Hoosier Hills Food Bank, food purchase, $8,720.
The Indiana Recovery Alliance, experience with hepatitis C and injection drug use for $3,160.
Lotus 2023 Summer Festival Arts Program, $3,110.
Meals on Wheels, groceries to go meal kits, $4,740.
Middle Way Rise and Shine, $3,380.
Monroe County United Ministries, improving public health, cleaning, hygiene, and diapers for $5,410.
Mother Hubbard's Cupboard for pantry support, $5,250.
My Sister's Closet for the Women's Empowerment Suffragettes Bike Rack, $2,010.
New Hope for Families, New Help for Families program, $8,650.
New Leaf, New Life for case management and transportation assistance, $4,920.
People and Animal Learning Services for equipment, $4,070.
Planned Parenthood for safety net, family planning, and sexual health services, $5,320.
South Central Community Action Program, equitable barrier reduction for families working their way out of poverty, $4,790.
St. Vincent de Paul, keeping people and their clothing off the floor, $5,510.
Stone Belt Hand in Hand Project, $3,340.
The Warehouse, Tiny Tots Treehouse, $750.
WFHB, a portable mixer for youth radio, $1,780.
Wheeler Mission, meals service supplies, $5,230.
Writing for Change, youth program instructors, $930.
That is it.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you very much. And at this point, then, we have a motion, I believe, to entertain.
Right. And in years past, there have been considerations to separate particular grant recommendations into a separate vote. And I think we should ask this year if there is interest in doing this.
It's not necessary.
Okay.
I was already notified, so we already have some items that have been pulled and separated out from those.
Okay,
And
that you've already been notified.
Mhm.
Okay, can you advise us on this? That
It's in the motion that he's gonna stay.
Okay.
So I'll pull everything up as well.
okay, thank you.
Council, I move to approve resolution 2023-23, award of Sophia Travis Community Service Grants, which reads, now therefore be it resolved that the Monroe County Council's total distribution of the Community Service Fund for 2023 of $160,000, $160,830, as read by Ms. Kapler and Ms. Johnson, be split into parts A, B, and C. Part C, awarding agency Writing for a Change totaling $930. Part B, awarding agencies All Options and Planned Parenthood totaling $9,120. And Part A, awarding the remaining mentioned agencies totaling $150,780 for a grand total distribution of $160,830.
Second.
Thank you. Are there any council comments or questions? Counselor Iverson.
This is my first year serving on this committee, and it is as rewarding as I've heard other council members say that it is. And I'm very pleased that this is following on the footsteps of our COLA discussion as well as our revenue discussion, because it not only highlights the good that public service can do, but also the immense need that is out there. Fully 1/3 of these organizations asked for some sort of food assistance. Food insecurity, driven by a number of factors, is a very real and present concern for many, many people. We heard it today in some of our department head comments, and we heard it loud and clear from these agencies. Folks are really struggling to afford food. And there's other trends in here that, you know, a couple organizations asked for diapers. The cost of care for infants is high, and a lot of these agencies asked for services to support children. And I know the amount isn't high, but if it were not for what we are doing here, there would be gaps in our community. I'm sure of it. And I'm looking forward to increasing the amounts that we can award next year in our budget cycle.
Thank you. Any other comment or from counselors? Go ahead.
I'll just keep it brief. This is my second year into this, and it was very helpful and very informative. But again, as Councilor Iverson stated, it just highlights the need of a lot of things, but it also highlights the good that our community is doing, whether that is trying to keep people off the floors, such as what we see here, giving families food and also diapers, all those different things. It gives us a glimpse of hope and a lot of dark times. And again, it was a pleasure to work with Councilor Munson as she chaired yet again, and for the first time with Councilor Iverson, but to our residential appointees, Ms. Johnson and Ms. Kapler, we just appreciate your hard work and dedication to this as well. It wasn't an easy task, but we got it done, and look forward to continuing doing this next year.
Great. Any other comments from council? Okay. I am going to open this for public comment. So we'll have a time limit of 3 minutes. If there are any members of the public that wish to make a comment online, please raise your hand. I'll try to make sure I can see that this time. And if you're here in the Nat U Hill room and would like to make a comment, please come to, well, actually you could come right there next to Ms. Kapler and sit here with us. There's a place for you to sign in. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm sorry, state your name, please, for the record. Yes, my name is Chris Husted. I currently work in the planning department, previously worked in the health department, so I have a little bit of perspective of different departments. So I wanted to express some things. I'll make it brief. It's been touched upon that loss of staff, costs time and money to train new hires.
Okay, we're only doing comments on Sophia Travis right now, but
I'm so sorry.
it's okay.
That's okay.
I wasn't clear when I said
Follow up in a minute.
come back. Please stay and we'll get your comment as soon as we finish with this. But we have to do public comment on this item first.
I apologize.
No worries. You can just, it's okay. Are there any members of the public that would like to comment on the Sophia Travis grants? I don't see any, which might be a first. That's awesome. Okay, let's see. I'm looking online just to see if no hands raised. All right. In that case, we will we'll go ahead and have a roll call vote for resolution 2023-23C, which is the writing for a change.
Right.
Writing for change. Counselor Hawk,
No.
Counselor Wiltz,
Yes.
Counselor Munson,
Yes.
Counselor Iverson,
Yes.
Counselor McKim,
Abstain because my wife is a paid instructor for this organization.
Counselor Deckard,
Yes.
Counselor Crossley.
Yes.
Motion passed 5-1 to one abstain.
Thank you. Now could we have a roll call vote on resolution 2023-23B for all options and Planned Parenthood?
Counselor Crossley,
Yes.
Counselor Hawk,
No.
Counselor Wiltz,
Yes.
Counselor Munson,
Yes.
Counselor Iverson,
Yes.
Counselor McKim,
Yes.
Counselor Deckard.
Yep.
Motion passed 6-1.
Thank you. And now could we have the roll call vote on resolution 2023-23A, which is the awards for the remaining stated agencies and organizations?
Counselor Deckard,
Yes.
Counselor Crossley,
Yes.
Counselor Hawk,
No.
Counselor Wiltz,
Yes.
Counselor Munson,
Yes.
Counselor Iverson,
Yes.
Counselor McKim.
Yes.
Motion passed 6-1.
That is fantastic. I'm really excited to have this passed, and I wanted to say thank you to you both. I've worked on this committee as well. I know it's really rewarding, but it takes a lot of time and a lot of hard decisions as well. So thank you both and appreciate it. And we will return to our regularly scheduled program. So let's entertain public comment on the COLA topic at this point. So please come back. And if you're online, please feel free to raise your hand if you'd like to make comment on the topic of the cost of living adjustments for county employees.
Okay, so I will state my name again. My name is Chris Husted. I currently work for the planning department, previously for the health department. I bring experience with the staffing issues at the health department as far as the reasons behind that. So it was touched upon that not only does it cost time and money to train new hires, but it also leaves less room for limited staff departments to take meaningful time off due to increased workload or having to delay time off in order to train new employees. Meaningful time off contributes to better mental health, increased productivity, and better quality work. So even when you're speaking to cost-saving measures, sometimes you have to get a little creative. It's not just about what you're putting up front, but also, other things. So people who work for local government don't have the expectation to make the same salary as the private sector. Many, particularly in the field of public health, are in it to make a difference in their community. However, feeling valued goes a long way. And also, many county staff are responsible for student loans. I know that the subject of childcare was brought up, but also for other departments that are professional staff, they also have student loans, which is a significant burden. And also limits on discretionary spending means less investment in the local economy. If you are struggling to get by, you're going to be going on Amazon or, wherever you can get the cheapest. And if we want to really invest in the community, a salary increase is important. As far as personally, the value of my home in Bloomington has increased approximately 30% since I purchased it in November of 2020. Interest rates have also increased since then. I would likely not be able to afford my home if I tried to purchase it now. And it's a modest home. It's 888 square feet, 2-bedroom, 1 bath. It becomes it's more expensive to rent, but banks look at salary as an indicator for the ability to secure a loan. And so, it's just kind of a ripple effect there as well. Housing prices increased at least 13.6% in the last year. And 2 years ago, housing costs were approximately 27% lower. So, keeping up with the cost, it's cost of living adjustment, keeping up with the cost of living. It's a big factor. So
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate your comment. Are there other members of the public either here? And I keep getting booted out of Zoom, so I have to totally reopen the things to see, but nobody online. So please come on in.
Oh, sorry about that. Good evening, Council. I'm Beth Hamlin from the Prosecutor's Office. I sent this to you all, which you've probably seen some stories of employees in our office. But I really think it's important for the public to hear. We've got two employees that responded, and not all employees did have the time to respond, but 2 of them talked specifically about living on credit cards right now because things are so high they just can't keep up. I also have one employee who works in our office he lives with his fiance, rents in town, but has had to take in a roommate who's another county employee because neither of the county employees can afford a place to live. So, it's working for them for now, but that's not optimal for a new family that's going to get married. And, who knows? I think that's just really sad. Another couple of, it's a household of 2 county employees that have worked for decades here. They have to farm to keep, their land paid for and that sort of thing. And she also brought up the fact that the federal government's going to reinstitute payments on student loans coming up. And they've got Parent Plus loans, and they've got, the loans are being paid on one, and they've got another son in college right now. That's what we want for our families, but they can't afford to do it. She's terrified about that. And these are county employee families that have worked for decades. Another employee who's worked for 20 years just can't, she doesn't go out to have any fun. She, is really worried about her credit cards. She's worked for the county for 20 years. She's been a great employee. It's, I know it's not this council's fault. I know it's, more of a national issue, but it really is, sort of a black eye on the county to have these employees that just can't keep their heads above water. Most of them that I talked to today are COMET classifications. So I think focusing on that lower scale is important, or the lower end of the scale. I've got other instances, but I will not worry with those right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your comment. Any other members of the public here? Come on up.
Good evening, Clark Britton. I'm a local physician and the current county health officer.
Welcome.
Speaking on behalf of myself and hopefully for the department. Surveys that have looked at employee retention that have been performed by graduate programs in business suggest that salaries are not the most important thing for retention, but it's really up there. It's in the top 4. Work environment, job satisfaction, self-worth exceed salary. But salary is a reflection of how much we value our employees. That's palpable. Separate from thank you for doing a good job. What you can take to the bank and make your house payment or your rent payment or buy your groceries. And the better we value that, the better the employee is for the jobs that we want them to do. And the more we celebrate that and the more we reward that, the better the job the employee will do, the more respect they will have for themselves, their coworkers, and the people that supervise them in the county's council, for instance, and the community at large. And I think they deserve this. That's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other members of the public who would like to make comments?
Hi.
Hello.
Jamie Ford. I work for the health department. So big thanks to Dr. Britton for speaking for us too. Personally, my husband's a veteran, so we were able to qualify for a VA loan. Thankfully, that is a good way that we were able to afford the mortgage on our house. I pray every day that nothing happens to him anyway, but if something happened to him where he was injured, couldn't work, something worse, I worry about whether I would be able to stay in my house just on my salary alone. Pretty sure that I would not be able to. With my job, there's a lot outside of my job description that I do, which I understand, that happens. But, for instance, the last council meeting you were speaking about, John Baton working with the health department for the GIS technology. I'm working on that. That's not my job description. So if you like that kind of stuff happening, help keep me here. Don't force me to have to go look for a higher paying job just to live here in the county. As far as my coworkers, I'm not an expert. I don't have a Bachelor of Science or anything like that. A lot of my coworkers have a lot of, very specific degrees. They have to earn a lot of certifications, and that, private sector, they would be making a lot more money. So I get nervous when I'm in front of people. But again, like they keep them here. There's a reason why they're still here. We have a great group now. We've had our struggles, but the group that we have, they're doing the dirty work, literally with our wastewater program, And it's also not just the fact that they're doing the current work and looking towards the future. We're also cleaning up a lot of the mess that a lot of us walked into, that a lot of us, predates a lot of us. So again, just help keep us here. We want to serve the public. We like our jobs. We enjoy. I enjoy working for Lori. She's a great boss, and don't make me have to consider leaving to find higher pay. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment on our COLA? Checking online, I think. Nobody online, and going once, going twice. So, okay, we are closing public comment on the COLA topic. Thank you. And before we move on in our agenda, I'm going to ask for a 10-minute recess. We could use a little bit of a break, I think. And so it's 7:08. We'll be back here at 7:18.
Thank you.
Oh, you're right.
Recess, so they don't have to wait. When we take advantage of the recess. Because otherwise I have to wait to the end of the meeting. I would have to wait till the end of the meeting. I would be. I'm hoping. Well, you know the question is, right? So the no vote on Planned Parenthood. I was expecting. I didn't understand why you voted no against everything else. Yeah. So it was a general sort of issue. Yeah, I think it's one of those things where it's tough because I don't think anybody at this table needs persuading.
Can somebody please mute the microphones?
Valerie's question is, okay, which Great.
And just
We are back and I am noticing that I missed when I called for public comment on items not on the agenda. There was a hand raised, and because of some technology, maybe user related issues, I did not see it. So if Mr. Shelton is still listening and would like to make public comment and he could be unmuted, please, that would be fantastic.
Well, good evening.
Hello.
Thank you. Hi. Well, I'm not trying to cause trouble. I just wanted to make my standard announcement for the next CASA training, but I was beginning to think I was cursed. Last week, the commissioner skipped public comment altogether. They totally forgot it.
Oh.
And I put a note in the chat, and they didn't see it at all. Penny was really nice. She told me I should have interrupted at the next opportunity to make public comment. But the things you were doing tonight, I really didn't think I should do that. So thank you. I'll be very brief. I just wanted to tell everybody that the fall training for CASA will start in just about a month. It'll run from September 19th to October 19th. It'll be in the mornings from 10 to 1 on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Applications will be due September the 8th. So I just wanted to tell people that, and I certainly appreciate the opportunity. It doesn't seem to me that anybody monitors what gets put in the chat at either meeting. So you might want to think about doing something about that. But thank you very much for the opportunity to spread that word.
Thank you. Appreciate it. And yeah, I try to look at the chat, but I'm having some connectivity issues this evening. So that brings us, where are we in the agenda? Number 7 with our legal department. Perfect.
Council, I move to approve the legal department's request for an additional appropriation in Fund 1,0227 litigation deduction for $25,000 in the services category.
Second.
Hello, Mr. Schilling.
Good evening.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you for taking the time to listen to us. We are just seeking a $25,000 additional appropriation for our litigation deduction line. And that is a line where we pay the insurance companies for their representation on cases. And we frequently use that line also to transfer into our litigation budget to pay for other legal fees as well, or settlements.
Okay. Are there questions or comments from council, Mr. Deckard?
If a member of the public wanted to know why legal and the county have insurance, could you just speak briefly to why that is?
Well, there are cases that could involve a lot of money, a lot of damages. And so we farm those out to Insurance Defense Council, who have the experience in that area. And the insurance company covers any damages that come up after we pay our deductible, which is about $15,000 a case.
Okay.
So
thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Yeah, Councilor Crossley.
I was just curious. I don't know if you have a crystal ball to predict this, but do you think that you could possibly be back before the end of the year for an additional appropriation due to ongoing legal?
It is possible.
Okay.
Maybe even likely. One of the problems we always have is the insurance companies kind of sit on the bills, and then in December they just hammer us. And so we like to have a little bit around, and we have other lines that we can transfer into the litigation deduction line if there's an emergency. So it's possible that I'll be back.
Okay.
And Kim mentioned this when we were talking about the budgets the other day about just increasing the original
I was
appropriation.
just about to ask you about that.
But I'm happy to come to these meetings and seek extra money and let you know what's going on. So whatever you prefer is fine with us.
Okay. I was gonna say work with your liaison, but that's me, isn't it? So, yeah, we can talk.
Alright.
We'll talk. Are there updates that you want to provide on, I mean, that you can provide on any of your activities related to this request?
Really nothing going on right now. The two main cases being the Huff federal case and then the Houston South case. That's pretty much resolved. I think I called Jeff Stant today to get an update on what was going on since the court's last decision, and they've been busy doing bad inventories, and there's some proposed legislation, I believe, that Senator Braun is going to put forward that would be, if it were passed, it would be very helpful. So they are actively, they're not resting on the judicial action. They are going ahead to make sure that the lake and the forest is protected. The Huff case, we're just waiting for a decision from the judge.
Wow. Okay. Lots of waiting. Any other questions or comments for Mr. Schilling?
Thank you for this. Eliminated.
It used to be a lot more peaceful in the litigation reduction arena.
Yeah.
As you can see.
Okay, well, is there any public comment on this appropriation? Seeing none, could I have a roll call vote, please?
Counselor Munson,
Yes.
Counselor McKim,
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz,
Yes.
Counselor Crossley,
Yes.
Counselor Deckard,
Yes.
Counselor Hawk,
Yes.
Counselor Iverson.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimous.
Thank you very much.
And now we move on to item B.
Council, I move to approve ordinance 2023-24A, Part 1, preliminary approval of tax abatement for Phoenix closures.
Welcome, Mr. Cockrell.
Thank you. Give me a second to sign
Second.
in. Oh,
Oh,
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
yeah, I couldn't second it myself, so thank you. We're here to talk about a recent tax abatement application that the county received. And I think Stacy Gannon is here from the company if you have questions kind of later in the evening. So I'll try to run through the information. And I think it should be fairly simple because this is a tax abatement. This is a company we talked about recently about this, and I'll get into that in a second. But essentially what we're here for is step one of the tax abatement process. Really step two. Step one was at noon today where we met with the EDC and they gave a positive recommendation for this. This is council step one, in that the council has to have a two-step process in order to do a declaration of an economic revitalization area and then approve the tax abatement as well. This is part of state code. And so we do a preliminary approval, which we're asking for tonight. And then at your work session in September, we'll ask for the secondary approval. That secondary approval will have a public hearing component to it. So we'll make sure all the notices are put out and things like that. But the company we're talking about tonight is Phoenix Closures, and they came to the county, I believe, in the 2017, 2018 era to get the initial tax abatement. At that time, they are in the old former Otis building, and so it's a redevelopment of a brownfield, which was something that was very attractive about this company and what they're doing in the county. However, due to unforeseen circumstances such as a global pandemic, that kind of got delayed a little bit. And so if you recall, I think about this time last year, we came to you guys and said, hey, they're able to do it now. They've got their quotes in there. They got the equipment coming in. And so we had to adjust that because of the price of the equipment came up, was increased. And so we made that adjustment last year. This was the first year we've received CF1s for them. And I believe they were supposed to, and then their group have 71 employees and they only had 68, which I can tell you for year one or year two of that high of a percentage is pretty phenomenal. And so they're coming back and they want to do another expansion. They currently have 8 lines and they're going to add an additional 4 lines to their business with a personal property investment of just over $20 million. They're seeking a $10 million, or not $10 million, a 10-year tax abatement, kind of on our standard 100% first year, all the way down to 10% in year 10 abatement schedule. They're going to add 21 new jobs. Their ranges for the jobs are between $22 and $26 an hour starting. That does not include their benefit package, which I believe is about a $16 per hour value to that. The package should have their application. One thing I wanted to note, I noted it for the EDC, is that they have a health plan that has a 93% employee using rate, which is extremely high. It kind of tells you it's a really good plan, or people would have gone through their spouse or gone through what other options they have. So they've got a really high retention for that. The wages are like pretty good for starting. I think from my notes from the day, they expect 1.1 million in new wages, but that does not include all the benefits that are also associated with that. That's just what people are getting paid. If you have any questions for me, I'm more than happy to answer them. I know the company representative, I think, is on Zoom.
Yeah, I'm looking at, if you could promote Stacy Gannon to a panelist, that might help.
Yes, I think I'm unmuted now, but am I good?
We can hear you. I do see that Counselor McKim has a quick question. I don't know if it's quick. I just said quick. You have a question though. What's your question?
Actually, let's hear from Ms. Gannon first, then I'll.
Okay, all right.
Well, yes, and thank you, Jeff. As Jeff had discussed, we were very successful in moving into Monroe County. We took the Otis Brownfield and really did some nice improvements. I don't know if you've driven by there. I did have a PowerPoint presentation that shows some pictures of how we improved that property. So we are looking for, because of the success we've had there, we would like to continue to expand into Monroe County. And we're looking to bring in 4 new production cells, which will add the 21 additional full-time permanent positions. Annualized wages on that will be 1.1 million. And then we'll continue our above standard benefits. To his point, to Jeff's point, we do have a 93% participation rate in our medical and dental and vision that we offer because it's just a great plan that we have. The other thing I would like to mention is that we also, when we come into a community, we encourage community involvement for all of our employees and as a company as a whole. There are 3 things that we do to generate that. We have a designated fund for the plant to invest into charities in the community at their discretion. We have an employee company match for employee contribution to deductible charitable up to $300. And we also offer our employees 8 hours paid time leave to volunteer within the community. So we find that's very important to be immersed into the community and have our presence there. We are also heavily into working on the ESG. We have several projects that we're working on and designations that we've received. So we continue to work towards that. And so far, you know, with the other abatement, we have been successful in meeting our commitments there, so we don't see any issues with us meeting these other commitments for this new abatement. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Counselor McKim, did you have a question or comment at this point?
Thank you very much. And actually, my question was really from Mr. Cockrell. If you could just summarize any, I don't know, comments or conclusions from the Economic Development Commission's consideration of this abatement.
Well, I think, and I encourage everyone to watch the meeting. It should be available. One of the when you ask that question, the thing that sticks out in my mind is we had a nice long chat about the natural gas in Indiana because Greg Travis had done a study on that, and the history of this company was that they started with glass bottles and then they've moved to more plastic, including the container lids for peanut butter and those kind of things. So there was a lot of discussion about, you know, kind of historically how they came to be in Monroe County, why they chose Monroe County to begin with. There was also a lot of discussion about their program that she just described with the employees and they're incentivized to volunteer and to do other things within the community. There was a lot of discussion about the equipment and what that meant as far as the tax benefit versus the tax being paid by the company as estimated over the 10-year cycle. I think that document is included in your packet. Those were kind of the things that was focused on. I think that one of the nice things is I think in June we had the meeting where we looked at all the CF1s, and that was the first time Phoenix Closures had come through that process. So I think we had a lot of discussion. So there was really a lot of already kind of maybe a heightened sense of what they did and what their work was. So I think it focused mostly on what community benefits the company brought.
Thank you.
Was there any discussion of environmental impacts or initiatives within the company on environmental protections?
Not that I recall.
I'm wondering then if Ms. Gannon could talk to that issue.
Sure. So we actually have a designated committee at Phoenix Closure. We have a VP that oversees the ESG, and we have a sustainability committee that is committed into working towards, you know, the goal of making a lesser footprint. We have committed to reducing our energy intensity by 25% by 2031. Our baseline starts at 2021. We have the EcoVadis bronze medal, which reflects our achievements in ESG. We are now offering PCR, which is post-consumer recycled resin, which has a lower carbon footprint than our traditional resin. All of our caps are designed to be recycled. We're currently reporting GHG emissions on the EcoVadis Scope 1 and 2. And we are members of the Sustainability Packaging Coalition, the SPC.
Thank you. Mostly, and I had just a brief glance through the PowerPoint that was shared earlier, and it looks like a lot of your products are the lids to containers. Is that correct?
That is correct. That is our sole production in Indiana and Monroe County are the plastic closures. So we are SQF certified, FDA certified, because a lot of our products are for beverage and food. So yes.
And it's my understanding, I'm looking at Councilor Iverson because you know a lot about these things, but it's my understanding that here locally we can't really recycle the lids that are a certain diameter. I think this 2 inches or something and smaller?
My understanding of that is that it's a changing situation. And I think Counselor Munson, who serves on the Solid Waste Management Board, might be a better expert on this particular topic. But on this topic, I do want to congratulate this company, because they do produce this lid so that it can be recycled.
Yeah,
And that's a major step in the right direction.
absolutely. Counselor Musson.
I don't have any up-to-date information because presently Counselor McKim is the representative to solid waste from the council.
That's right.
And I don't know. I might arm wrestle Counselor McKim again next year to see if we could switch around again.
But no,
Councilor-
that topic has not come up in discussion over this year.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, it's just one of those things that's really frustrating when you know something can be theoretically recycled and then we don't have the capability locally. I'm on a tangent and I realize it, and I'm going to shut it down. Are there any other questions? Yes.
I don't have a question. I just want to be bullish about this. 68 retained jobs in our county, 21 additional jobs, over $1 million in salaries for our residents here, with a company that clearly cares not only about the community, but also about the environment, recovering a brownfield here in our community. This is exactly what we need in Monroe County. And we're so very happy that you're here. And I'm very happy to support this.
Thank you very much. We have been so thrilled with working with Monroe County, the BEDC, and everybody that's been involved with this has been just such a pleasure to work with.
Any other questions or comments? All right, seeing none, any public comment on this item? Hi.
Hello. Thank you. My name is Jen Pearl, and I'm the president of the Bloomington Economic Development Corporation. We're a nonprofit that serves all of Monroe County in trying to attract and create quality jobs and investment in the community. And Councilmember Iverson actually pretty much summed up everything that I could say. So I will just say ditto. And we've been really delighted to work with Phoenix Closures and Stacey Gannon and the whole team. They've really been invested in the community and improving the site. I mean, what we want is revitalization of old brownfield sites, because that not only creates opportunities for job creation now, but it also helps add to our assets for the future that we have in this community. So we're just excited to be able to support this and appreciate your consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Zoom again. Okay, seeing none, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Counselor Munson,
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz,
Yes.
Counselor Crossley,
Yes.
Counselor Deckard,
Yes.
Counselor Hawk,
Yes.
Counselor Iverson,
Yes.
Counselor McKim.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimous.
Thank you so much. I truly appreciate it. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Now we move to the prosecutor's office, item 8 on the agenda.
Council, I move to approve the prosecutor's request for a new account line 321, phones and pagers in Fund 91590000, high-tech crime unit, and to high-tech crimes unit, and to simultaneously approve an additional appropriation in account line 356, contractual for $30,000 in the services category.
Second.
Welcome.
Good evening.
I thought you were just hanging out because you liked us.
Well, I do like you, but I also have business.
Right.
This
Okay.
is some additional funding that we're receiving on top of the initial grant that we received from Indiana Prosecuting Attorneys Council to support the efforts of the high-tech crime unit that was developed a year and a half ago. It's in the amount of $30,000. And then the request for the telephone line has to do with the fact that, it's a new fund. We are paying a phone bill. We've been paying it out of tech services, and I think a telephone bill makes more sense.
Sounds good.
Telephone line, I mean.
Other questions from council on this item?
No pagers, huh? Just cell phones?
No pagers. Oh, I was going to give you a quick update while I'm here that as of the end of June, the high-tech crime unit for this year they've had 93 cases submitted year to date for 2023 and 150 evidence items that they're processing. So, it is a 10 county area, but they're working hard, and it's saving our office a lot of work because we used to do all that.
Yeah, fantastic. Any other questions or comments? Well, I'm happy to see that you all are doing a lot of work through this funded project. So that's fantastic. Could we have, public comment?
Yes, online.
Thank you. If we could go ahead and hear from Mr. Shelton.
That might have been from earlier.
Mr. Shelton, I think you are able to unmute. Yes, please. Oh.
Yeah, I'm unmuted. I'm sorry. I've lowered my hand now. Thanks.
Oh, okay, great. Any other public comment? Thank you. Thanks. Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote, please.
Counselor Wiltz,
Yes.
Counselor Crossley,
Yes.
Counselor Deckard,
Yes.
Counselor Hawk,
Yes.
Counselor Iverson,
Yes.
Counselor McKim,
Yes.
Counselor Munson.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimous.
Thank you all.
Thank you. And now we have our health department, item number 9.
Council, I move to approve the Health Department's request for additional appropriations in Fund 8150-9623 TANF Futures for $6,000 in the personnel category, $4,657 in the supplies category, and $4,127 in the services category, for a total of $14,784.
Second.
Welcome.
Good evening.
Good evening. Do you want to give us a little background?
Sure. So this is just basically our earned revenue that we have coming into the Futures Family Planning Clinic. This could be generated from multiple different avenues, whether it's just sliding scale payments that are being paid. In addition, we do have reimbursements from our long-acting contraceptives. This is a program that is supported from the Indiana Family Health Council, who provides us with the Title X and the TANF grant funding, but it is considered a program that is separate from that just general grant funding. So we are able to submit and receive a portion of a reimbursement. And this is necessary to support our clinic services. We cannot operate the clinic just strictly off of our Title X and TANF.
Great. Thank you. Are there questions or comments from council?
I believe that's the first time I heard it referred to as earned income for the health department, but because I was thinking, what is this?
I thought it was like
Thanks for explaining it.
Yes, I do understand this is a new process, but we really feel like this is in the best interest to actually receive this revenue in and then have requests that it be appropriated for use.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Is the earned income component from this calendar year? What's the, I guess I'm asking, like, how long of a period of time does this reflect?
This reflects for the periods as the documentation that was submitted beginning April 1st of 2023 and then extending through May 31st of 2023. So essentially this is 2 months. But again, really in the best interest, we feel that it is to collect this revenue, ask that it be appropriated, so then we can put it back into the funds to use it.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Yes.
For the public, it is worth it to go and look at some of these income streams. It really highlights how much you all do. For example, one of the largest income streams is for pool and spa permits. Yeah, the health department does that. So
Yes, it's amazing. And then especially at the beginning of the year to see all of the food permits that we process, you see that really big, huge spike come in from that. So it really provides a great overview.
Very cool. All right. Any other comments? Any public comment on this item? Seeing none, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Counselor Crossley,
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz,
Yes.
Counselor Deckard,
Yes.
Counselor Munson,
Yes.
Counselor Hawk,
Yes.
Counselor McKim,
Yes.
Counselor Iverson.
yes.
Motion passed unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then we're on to item number 10, the CARES Board.
Council, I move to approve the CARES Board request for additional appropriations in Fund 1148-0000 Drug-Free Community for $43,500.69 in the services category.
Second.
And I see Mr. Malone is on Zoom with us. Welcome.
Thank you for having me, council members. This is for additional appropriation for the CARES Board annual grant allocation in the treatment, justice, and prevention fields in Monroe County. The CARES Board is a local coordinating council, or LCC, for Monroe County and Monroe County Commissioners. Each county in Indiana has one of these LCCs. These councils were established by executive order under Governor Bayh as part of the Drug-Free Indiana mission to support and promote local efforts to prevent and reduce harmful involvement with alcohol and other drugs, in other words, ATOD. The primary responsibility of the board is to distribute funds to the justice, treatment, and prevention programs and initiatives in Monroe County and for Monroe County. The process begins with a community assessment by the board, where we collect data and input on what is happening here locally. This assessment provides a framework for our community plan, which lists objectives or steps that could be taken to reduce community drug and alcohol issues. The plan is sent to the state for approval, and then once the approval is here, the grant process proceeds forward. The Drug-Free Community Grant Funds, according to Indiana Code 5-2-11-5, come from alcohol countermeasures fees and drug interdiction fees. These fees are assigned by all judges. However, sometimes they're not always collected since some people aren't able to pay these fees. The funds we're required to allocate are for 25% for justice, at least 25% for justice, prevention, and treatment programs, with the remaining for operating costs are to be spread out across the three remaining categories if needed. Again, as was mentioned earlier, we have 43,500 available. 13% of that, or 6,000, is going to go to our operating costs for the board. The other treatment, justice, prevention fields will receive $12,523 or $12,500.23, or 29% of the allocated money available. Our grantees are the Monroe County Drug Treatment Court for urine drug screens for $2,080. These are drug tests as intervention tools to monitor offender substance use while they're in one of our problem-solving courts. Those come from the treatment and intervention dollars. Monroe Circuit Court Probation, or the Community Corrections Program, for journals, $1,350. These journals will be utilized by the Community Corrections and Probation Department at supervision appointments as a cognitive intervention component, helping offenders identify risk factors in their own lives. New Leaf New Life, the inside the jail component, for $4,930, with the prevention money, justice money, and treatment intervention money from all three categories. This provides individuals support during their incarceration with assessing and receiving services and resources. Another one from New Leaf New Life, which we paid for through the justice and treatment intervention categories, would be for $4,950 from outside the jail. And New Leaf New Life will provide recovery skills to clients who have recently left jail or prison. These funds will go to staff to work with those coming out of incarceration to provide any diverse supportive services they may need. Another category that's going to be our grantee that's going to be receiving money is the Amethyst House for the men's and women's program. Both will receive $4,800. They provide transitional housing, outpatient counseling, and supportive services to the men and women in recovery from addictions and other services, and for their dependent children as well. Courage to Change, we're requesting the $4,625.37 to be dispersed from the prevention and treatment intervention field. Courage to Change is a sober living, peer supportive, transitional, and permanent housing option for people affected by substance use and their immediate families. Beacon has requested, or will be receiving $4,900 for the Crawford Homes program from prevention and all three treatment fields. It's a Shalom Center. Center operates the Crawford Homes program at 25 one-bedroom housing units at the Crawford House. These funds were for half-time positions for a licensed drug and alcohol counselor to provide counseling and programming directly to applicants and residents there at the Crawford House or Crawford Home. And lastly, the Indiana Recovery Alliance is for $5,065.30 from the prevention dollar field. The IRA allows or offers low barrier services and variety of outreach methods to empower participants to reduce their harmful involvement with alcohol, to drugs, tobacco, and other drugs. These funds will be to fund an equity and focused project with significant potential to change community attitudes towards drug use and reduce substance use by promoting harm reduction in the community and raising awareness for the risk of overdose here in Monroe County. We had 11 grants this year apply. We funded 9 based on our algorithm as far as what we had available and the percentage that they had to score on our grant process. So again, $43,500 and 69 cents for the 3 categories in operational costs for the board.
That's an amazing repertoire of programs.
Yes.
That's impressive. Yeah, that's really cool. Questions, Councillor Hogg?
Yes, I wanted to see if anyone had approached you for funding for, and I'm on Facebook now because that's where it was over and over again. I see over and over where they're talking about, it's like teachers are concerned about the students. And I was going to find it so I could know what I was talking about. It's like vaping or something. And so is it vaping?
Vaping.
And they're really concerned. It's really changing behaviors and they're very concerned about it. And now, of course, I've rolled, I can't find them. And they keep having on there. But I don't know whether that's something that you've considered. And if you haven't, hopefully next time around you will. If indeed what I keep seeing on here over and over again, if it really is that much of a problem, then I think we need to, as a group, support our students and our teachers.
We've never received any type of grant request for that type of services here in Monroe County. We would definitely be open to doing that if a grantee did apply for that. I know MCCSC and or Richard Lee Boston may have applied for grants in the past, but they have not done anything of that sort regarding vaping.
Maybe coming next week. Yeah. Councillor Iverson?
Mr. Malone, thank you so much for that litany of support you're providing to our community. Obviously, for those of you who do not have the privilege of watching every single Substance Use Disorder Advisory Commission meeting, Mr. Malone gives us an update every single month. And it's really nice to hear and really helps get the word out. My question to you, Mr. Malone, is would you mind sending that through to the council office? That way we can have a list of all those awards. It would be good to have that just to be able to crow a little bit louder about what you are doing.
I think that somebody there may have it. If not, I will definitely send it tomorrow morning when I get into the office as far as the document is concerned that I read off as far as the numbers and who received the grants. Is that what you're asking?
Yes, sir. And it's also quite possible that it came through my desk and I missed it. So we'll look at it. But congratulations. This is great news for the community and well done.
Yeah, thank you. And well, I just wish there was more money available. It keeps decreasing year after year after year. And I know our prosecutor, Eric Oliphant, has done a really good job as far as working with us and making sure that some of these fees do get collected, because that's basically where it comes from whenever we have this grant money available. It's not enough, but we fund as much as we can based on the availability of money and what you score. We've had to be really judicious over the past few years on our scoring and what we do and how much we are allowed programs to apply for.
That's tight. Any other questions or comments from Mr. Merlin? Any public comments?
I don't have a public comment, but I will plug, if anybody would like to join the CARES board, it's a volunteer board. We desperately need members. Feel free to email me at smalone@co.monroe.in.us.
Good deal.
That's great. Yeah. That would be an amazing group to work with, I'm sure.
Yeah, we'll crow about that too.
I'd like to make one comment before we vote. And I know this, I'm not making friends while I say this. But I was dismayed when there's someone here on this list who received money. And he spoke to a public body using the most profanity you could find. And I really regret that they would get any county money when they don't know how to address a public body. We wouldn't like it, no matter how angry somebody might be with us, or we might be with them. You don't use that kind of profanity. And I'm very disappointed in this group. I'm going to vote for this because I wasn't on this board. Maybe the board didn't realize it. But it will be the last time I'll vote for any money going to this particular group until we hear an apology for this public body, because it's wrong. Don't do that.
Okay.
Now, no, I don't mean everybody on this. I mean one of the recipients. Did I make that clear?
Yes, that was clear. Yeah, thank you. Anyway, public comment? No? And then let's have a roll call vote, please.
Counselor Iverson,
Yes.
Counselor McKim,
Yes.
Counselor Hawk,
Yes.
Counselor Munson,
Yes.
Counselor Deckard,
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz,
Yes.
Counselor Crossley.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimous.
Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Malone. Next, we have the Youth Services Bureau. Finally.
Council, I move to approve the Youth Service Bureau's request to create new account lines 2006 Safe Place Materials and 358 Outreach and Fund 9103-9624 Project Safe Place, and to simultaneously approve additional appropriations of $2,074 in the supplies category and $6,223 in the services category, for a total of $8,297.
Second.
Welcome, Ms. Schmidt, and thank you for your patience.
Sure, thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me tonight, Council. I'm just here to request the new budget lines and appropriation of our Indiana Youth Services 1504 Safe Place grant. This grant is not new to us, but this is just beginning of a new fiscal year. And like you mentioned, this grant is used to support our Safe Place and outreach program supplies, informational things that we disseminate, and making sure that we continue to get the word out about our Safe Place program to youth in need.
Great. And so I was just thinking about that program because I feel like, I mean, how long has it been around? I feel like I grew up with this program, and you know, it's there in the background, just always there. And I think it's an amazing resource that it's easy to take for granted that there are these signs around wherever you live. And, you know, as a kid, hey, I can go there if I need to.
Sure. Yeah, it was adopted in Louisville, Kentucky initially in 1972 and then in Monroe County in 1983. And we recently just took on Brown County. So now we cover Monroe, Owen, Greene, and Brown County.
Oh, nice.
Yes, yes. We have crisis responders that reach out to all 4 of those counties.
Wow. Thank you for doing that. That's
Actually, I believe that was in place when the youth shelter was still down here in one of the older buildings down here in Kirkwood before we ever had a youth shelter.
I believe you.
yeah, probably.
And that's when you all were babies, but yes, I remember all that.
Councilor Iverson.
Are these well used? Are you able to keep data on, the number of folks that are using these safe places, not spaces, but places?
Absolutely. So we do keep record of the amount of youth that access our safe place locations, either at a physical site, so like a library or fire station. A lot of youth are very familiar with the Youth Services Bureau, so they know we are a safe place site as a entity, so they can just directly come to us. I would say in the last 10 years, because of technology and cell phones and kids can get rides and text friends and things like that, kids are less likely to walk into the physical sites, except for the ones that they know really well. So schools continue to be utilized. YSB as just a safe place site continues to be utilized. And then we see a lot of recidivism. So kids that are aware of safe place, they've been to us before, regardless of how they were placed in the shelter, often come back as a safe place kid.
So does Safe Place have a digital footprint as well?
We do, yes. So we have a Facebook page. We have a GIS map that includes all of our safe place locations. There's a text for help number. So if you're ever in a location where there's not a physical safe place, it will give you like the closest youth serving organization or a phone number for help. So yeah.
That's fantastic.
Our outreach is much higher in the last few years because we've been able to utilize things like Comcast advertising, billboards, and theater advertising and things like that, which some of the next appropriation covers.
Great. Do you have a comment?
I'd like to ask Vanessa, do you communicate with the safe place hosts, like the fire stations, et cetera, and give them updates about how things are doing with the program?
Absolutely. So every year we're required to do annual safe place site checks. And so that includes a staff person from YSB physically going to the safe place site, ensuring that signs are up, protocols are posted, that staff is aware, that they're training their incoming staff. And then in addition, just providing programmatic information, especially if a youth access safe place from their site. Right. So obviously with confidentiality.
Right. And a thank you to them
absolutely
for their role.
We do a big thank you breakfast and thank you kind of shout out and any sort of like thank you cards, things like that during our National Safe Place Week, which is the 3rd week of March every year.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions on this item? Any public comments? Seeing none, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Counselor Munson,
Yes.
Counselor McKim,
Yes.
Counselor Crossley,
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz,
Yes.
Counselor Hawk,
Yes.
Counselor Iverson,
Yes.
Counselor Deckard.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimous.
Thank you. And now we move on to item B.
Council, I move to approve the Youth Service Bureau's request to create new account lines in Fund 81209624 Runaway Homeless Youth as set out on the agenda, and to simultaneously approve additional appropriations of $136,644.23 in the personnel category, $6,000 in the supplies category, and $26,600.77 in the services category, for a total of $169,245.
Second.
Wow.
So thank you so much. Again, this is just to request for a budget line and appropriation of the 3rd year of our RHY, which is our federal grant, Runaway and Homeless Youth Grant. So again, this is not a new grant for YSB, but this is just the 3rd fiscal year of that. And this does support 80% of a counselor's salary, our Safe Place and Outreach Coordinator salary, and then in addition, some outreach money and stipend for, like mentioned, office supplies and training.
Are there questions or comments from council? Yes.
What was the explanation that you had thought of that this jogged your memory just a second earlier? You said you were going to talk about something else, but then there was this appropriation. Oh, just that it touches on Safe Place.
Yes, so because the state grant is fairly small, it's kind of limited as far as what we can do with outreach. The federal grant that we receive allows us to kind of expand our outreach further and reach out to more rural communities. It gives us the ability to do advertising and social sponsorship. So we're often, have a presence at, Owen County events or Greene County events, Brown County events, things of that nature. And especially within Monroe County, obviously, we saturate the county as much as we can with our Safe Place outreach.
You said this is the third year of this grant.
Yes, it's a 3-year grant.
And-
We're entering into the third fiscal year of it.
Okay, all right. And then you'll reapply?
Yeah, so we actually, we reapply every year. And so even though we are awarded every 3 years, we do a continuation application every year that guarantees us our next fiscal year. So our reapplication for the full 3 years will be coming soon.
Okay, great. Amazing. Counselor Hawk.
That's part of what I wanted to speak about because I recall one year we relied heavily on this grant to cover our expenses. And so we were just told, well, it's just not here yet. Da, da, da. And we just kept spending money thinking it was going to show up. And that's when the youth shelter was in our general fund. And then we find out that it wasn't even turned in time. And there was all kinds of problems. So we don't expect that from you. We know
Absolutely
that
not.
it's going to happen, right? Because we rely on.
Sure.
And
I have
appreciate
heard about the year that we lost our HY. I don't know if I was actually with the county at that time, but I have heard about it. And that's interesting to know that it may have been our end that didn't apply appropriately.
It wasn't a pleasant time.
Yeah.
We found out, well, we've been spending all this money. You keep saying it's on its way, it's on its way. But yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine especially with the 2 salaries that it supports.
Yeah. Well, let's not do that again.
No.
Are there other questions or comments from council? Any public comments? Seeing none, a roll call vote, please.
Counselor McKim,
Yes.
Counselor Crossley,
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz,
Yes.
Counselor Hawk,
Yes.
Counselor Iverson,
Yes.
Counselor Deckard,
Yes.
Counselor Munson.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimous.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Thank you.
That brings us to item 12, which is our highway department. And I owe Miss Ridge an apology because she asked specifically to be moved up in our agenda. And I completely forgot to do that. She's not here. She's probably on an airplane, which I think was what she was trying to avoid have happen.
Yeah, she was going to be on the plane sometime around six-ish.
So she had provided a lot of information and I think we can move forward.
Miss Gregory said she could help as well.
That would be great. I know I think there was some stuff in the chat earlier in the meeting, but I've been bumped out, so I can't go back and see what it might have been. If anybody else knows.
Just read off what she has there.
Well, I can do that. Would you like
That's
me
what I was
to-
going to suggest. There's information there. I'm prepared for the fun to fun part, but the rest is kind of self-explanatory, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
I have the chat part from Miss Ridge if you want me to read that.
Okay. We'll do both. Let's do all, both and. Yes, and.
Whoa. We can do all things and then some.
Yes. Start with Counselor Deckard, right?
I've got a motion. Council, I move to approve the Highway Department's request for an additional appropriation of my eyes are starting to go, $511,000 in Fund 81700000 Dillman Road Bridge number 83 Grant Fund in the services category.
So second.
Okay. Would you like to read this? I'm sick of hearing myself talk. That'd be great.
Sure. So The department is requesting to appropriate the design account line in the Dillman Road Bridge number 83 replacement project, contract 22-0197 with BLN LLC in the amount of $511,000. So this is one of those where we pay 100% upfront, but we're reimbursed 80%, but because we're expending all of it, we appropriate 100%. So, Ms. Ridge is requesting the appropriation for that full amount there.
Okay, great. And was there any other information in the chat on this? I know she had each item.
It looks like it's for the next one.
Okay, that's great.
So,
are there any questions or comments from council?
I'll just comment that this seems like a normal procedure.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
just nothing out of the ordinary here.
I agree. Is there any public comment?
Necessary housekeeping item, really.
Yeah. Is there any public comment on this? I see none. So let's go ahead and have a roll call vote on this item.
Counselor Crossley,
Yes.
Counselor McKim,
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz,
Yes.
Counselor Munson,
Yes.
Counselor Hawk,
Yes.
Counselor Deckard,
Yes.
Counselor Iverson.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimous.
Thank you. And now we have item B.
Council, I move to approve the Highway Department's request for additional appropriations in Fund 81710000 Bicentennial Pathway totaling $350,000 in the services category.
Second.
And this is the just construction of Bicentennial Pathway.
Yeah, this is the this is the matching side. This is the grant side. So what we're doing here is it's got kind of a housekeeping so that we can expend the funds and then be reimbursed. So what will happen is this fund will look like it's negative many times, but it will end with a zero. Because we do this.
Are there questions or comments on this item? Is there any public comment on this item? Could we have a roll call vote?
Counselor Wiltz,
Yes.
Counselor Hawk,
Yes.
Counselor Iverson,
Yes.
Counselor Deckard,
Yes.
Counselor Munson,
Yes.
Counselor McKim,
We couldn't hear you, Counselor McKim.
Counselor
Yeah.
McKim,
Yes.
Counselor Crossley.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimous.
Thank you. Item C.
Council, I move to approve the Highway Department's request for an additional appropriation in Fund 91060000 CCMG by 2 minutes totaling $894,610 in the supplies category.
Second.
Community crossings.
Yeah, this is again just one of those housekeeping items we simply need to appropriate so they can expend.
Sounds good. Are there any questions or comments from council? All right. Is there any public comments? Seeing none, could we have a roll call vote when you get back to your seat, Michelle?
Counselor Iverson,
Yes.
Counselor Hawk,
Yes.
Counselor McKim,
Yes.
Counselor Munson,
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz,
Yes.
Counselor Crossley,
Yes.
Counselor Deckard.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimous.
Item D.
Council, I move to approve the Highway Department's request for a fund-to-fund transfer of cash of $600,000 from Fund 11350000 Local Road and Street to Fund 81620000 Sample Road Phase 2.
Second.
Great. So local matches are often required with these grants. So this is just kind of the last little bit required for this project. So I did, as has been practice this year, I was the second set of eyes and reviewed and do agree this is necessary.
Sounds good. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, is there any public comment? And could we have a roll call vote, please?
Counselor Deckard,
Yes.
Counselor Crossley,
Yes.
Counselor McKim,
Yes.
Counselor Iverson,
Yes.
Counselor Hawk,
Yes.
Counselor Munson,
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimous.
Okay, we have finished with the Highway Department and now we are on to the Board of Commissioners.
Council, I move to approve the Board of Commissioners request for additional appropriations in Fund 1,00161 General Fund Commissioners of $6,000 in the supplies category and $201,150 in the services category for a total of $207,150.
Second.
Welcome.
Hello.
Thank you for waiting.
Absolutely. Sadly, I get a little step heavy when I'm tired.
Happens to the best of you, doesn't it?
Ooh. So yeah, these requests are coming in. We have already done some transfers and it's possible we do have our utility line right now is, I think, unusually solid, but don't want to really transfer from there at this point in time. So these requests are to just going to take care of our materials and parts. Trash pickup has increased, and our service contracts. Service contracts, one of the biggest things you'll see on there will be with VTech, and that's for our fire and alarm systems.
Got it. And have they gone up unexpectedly?
No, I think what has happened is we've added more. We've got the Napa bill or the election operations. Yeah, we've added that. And I think that we've added additional cameras and alarm systems.
Sure. Are there other questions or comments from council? Councilor Munson.
So I would just like to know if you think this will carry you through the end of the year. Or we might see you in December.
I hope you do not see me in December, other than to wish you, happy holidays. I think that if things continue to go well in our utility line, if we have problems, we'll be able to make a transfer. There, presuming, of course, it's in the same category. So hopefully, if I do have to come back, it's still only for a category transfer.
Okay, great.
I like you, but I don't want to come back.
Are there other questions or comments from council? Any public comment on this item? Seeing none, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Counselor Deckard,
Yes.
Counselor Hawk,
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz,
Yes.
Counselor Iverson,
Yes.
Counselor Crossley,
Yes.
Counselor McKim,
Yes.
Counselor Munson.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimous.
Brings us to item B.
Council, I move to approve the Board of Commissioners request for additional appropriations in Fund 1138-0000 cumulative capital development of $218,000 in the services category and $176,363.27 in the capital category for a total of $394,363.27.
Second.
Okay, I'm going to hit the first two because they're easy, and then so the software loan's easy too, but that's why Greg is here. One of the items is for our special projects line, and we're requesting $157,500 in that. It was you combined the category. Just for your edification, we're needing that money at this time because we had the cleanup of the at-home site last year. However, we were not, the final invoice did not come in until this year. And so That's why that is on there. And then stormwater fees, apparently I mean, this has been more than 1 year that I've done this. I consistently do not request an appropriate budget for the stormwater fees that are owed by the county. And so I'm asking for the second half of the fees that are necessary. And then I will let Greg speak to our software line.
Okay.
Just hurting.
Yes, on our software line, we've had a couple things happen this year. One, we had to increase our Microsoft 365 licensing by 125 units. That accounted for almost 100,000. We also had two different vendors who provided services in 22 that didn't bill us until 23. So that's accounted for the huge portion of that. And there's been a few increases like we're seeing across the board everywhere with everything. We've had a few softwares that the cost went up as compared to last year. So on some of those, I didn't quite adjust enough. I anticipated about 5%, some of them went up close to 7.5% to 10%. So that's accounting for part of that shortage as well.
And then just to help, also, I know that there might be the question of why we're not doing any category transfers or with line transfers in this fund. That's because at the beginning of the year, we had to expend $930,000 for the Bicentennial Trail project that we were not anticipating having to do.
Right.
And so we don't have the flexibility that sometimes we have in this particular fund.
Got it. Counselor McKim?
Yes, on the stormwater. So I'm trying to remember how this works. Is that essentially the stormwater fee that the county pays on its properties to the stormwater utility, essentially? There's a little, I don't know, it's a little silly. It's one hand paying the other. I mean, the board could exempt the county from paying its own stormwater fee, right? Couldn't it?
I don't know. I actually feel like I asked this question a few years ago to legal and they're gone. And for some reason, we're still paying them. So I don't recall the conversation, but I will follow up with them because it does seem odd. But I think that there was maybe statutorily there's something that's stated in there that requires that we do this.
Yeah. Our council.
Oh, Molly's here. Sorry. Sorry.
Yes.
Let's deal with it on a normal basis. So I mean, we can find out and I can let you guys know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't expect you to start looking this up and give us an answer right here on the spot. In fact, I don't want to wait for that. But yeah, it sounds like a good question to check out. Just want to point out we do have counsel.
Yes, thank you for that.
Yeah.
I apologize.
No worries. Other questions? Yes, Councilor Iverson.
Yeah, my question is on the software line. How's the rollout going? Are we at 100% rolled out? What's the update?
Are you referring to 365?
Yeah.
Yes, all county users are now on 365. That met the requirements of our cyber insurance. We're also we've imposed MFA on that, multi-factor authentication, so it takes more than one means to be able to access the software, which gets us in compliance with cyber insurance and cybersecurity best practices. So we will not have to buy. I did allow an extra 20 licenses to set in reserve in case we add staff, things like that, or some changes are made. But at the cost per unit, you can't carry a large margin of spare licenses for that. We just can't do it. But at our current roster, we are fully covered at the moment. Yes.
Okay, great.
I'm looking forward to the teams and I like the cloud.
So we're going to be doing a lot with 365 since it does offer Teams. With Teams, you can do meetings like here we're doing Zoom. We'll be able to replace that with Teams. That'll allow us to cut the cost for the Zoom licensing. We'll also be able to utilize OneDrive, which is going to replace Dropbox that we also are paying an annual fee for. So we are going to get our money's worth out of this software suite. You better believe it.
Council Munson, yeah.
So I wonder about moving to Teams because the public is now pretty invested in Zoom.
Correct.
And how will that work?
It works exactly the same with Microsoft Teams, just as with Zoom. You're not required to have a Teams account.
Good.
You can, you don't have to install an application on a phone or on a laptop. You can run it right from the web browser and log in the same way. So
Very good.
as far as public participation, this will not impede it whatsoever.
Very good. Thank you.
It also provides transcriptioning and the closed captioning, just like
Would-
Zoom does too. So the written transcribed records there and all.
Very good. Thank you.
One thing, if we were ever making a wish list in this room, if we could do anything about sound.
Oh my God.
Here,
We
we
are-
earlier when we were having the COLA discussion, I
We couldn't hear.
good 70% of our audience can't hear what we're talking about. There's times I can't hear members over there on that side. and I know we've
Exactly.
got a lot of air going on, but I think we're running into an ADA issue that's gonna manifest into other things. We've got counselors like reading the screen
Right.
and then trying to read each other's lips. And
Right.
I think long-term, we gotta figure that out.
I've actually spoke with the vendor who installed the hardware during the refresh during Eric Evans administration. Not only are we getting ready to replace all these microphones, we're going to 16 microphones. They will be wireless, so we won't have to deal with the wiring anymore. I was going to add to these arrays, but this model is actually discontinued by the manufacturer. I can't get parts. I can't do anything. So as part of that, I've already discussed with him. We've had some other little technical issues besides just what you see in the front end. And so we need to address those, and sound is definitely going to be one of those.
Okay. Thank you.
Yay.
Yay.
And I won't have to ask you for money to do it because we already have it.
Yay.
Well, even better.
Council Iverson.
Yeah, so the at-home cleanup, we have bush hogged that area and now we're seeding it, right?
Mhm.
All right, great. And I noticed I believe you're part of our representatives to the Heading Home groups.
Yeah.
So I was really happy to see that you've got that expertise, that you're sitting on that board, and that we're moving forward with ways that we can make things brief, non-repeating, and rare.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's a great board, actually. They're doing a lot of work. Mary Morgan and Tatiana are the leaders of that particular group, and they're doing fabulous. I think it's something that, just put a little plug in, it's always been my thing. I think that they will be a perfect group to partner with for when we're looking at filling in gaps for our community people who are needing services related to our jail, or before, during, well, not so much during, but before and after, and then hopefully helping to avoid them even going into the jail system. So I see them as being a great partner in the future for you guys.
Well, and also that not if a situation with encampment happens again, but when it happens again, I feel like we're going to be much more prepared to not only address that situation, but also offer those folks the services they need to move on. So I wanted to highlight that on this item.
Yeah, no, it is good. I think that we have a good relationship with our shelters, our local shelters, and our sheriff's department. And if we get notice of an encampment, we're able to reach out to their local shelters. There's the TRO, the officers in the city who can't think of what their names are, or what their title
Resource
is.
officers.
Those resource officers, and they go out, meet with the people, and initiate finding alternate sources for them to use. And I think it's never a good situation, but I think it is better than what it has been at times. So
I have a CRO that lives in my neighborhood, and it's really wonderful.
yeah, I think they're pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So that property's on the west side of town, currently not being actively used by the county, hence other people using it. What is the intent for use, if any?
I don't know. There is. I think it's a mitigation property. Isn't it?
Yes, one thing you got to remember, that's a retention pond that was put in for that drainage for that whole shopping plaza and I-69. So technically it cannot be built on, and that constitutes the largest part of that 7 acres. There's only about 2 acres that's not on the slope of the retention pond.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And so it was a mitigation property, so now we own it and have to steward it. If we were to sell it, would there be, I assume, use restrictions that go along with that?
Precisely.
I would think so, and it would depend on the deeds that was provided to us from, I presume it came from
That's-
NDOT.
That was the state, yes.
Yeah.
So
State.
there'd be those things
So,
to jump through as well.
Yeah, there would be, would assume restrictions.
Are there restrictions such that we can't think of selling it at all?
No.
I know I'm expanding the scope of our conversation.
Yes, you are. I don't really know the answer to that, but I generally think that you can kind of buy and sell anything if you
Yeah, okay.
really want to.
Just thinking. Okay. The matter at hand, though, involves additional appropriations to cover these costs. Are there other questions, perhaps more germane to the topic? Seeing none, let's check with the public. Any public comments? I don't see any there either. Could we have a roll call vote?
Counselor Munson,
Yes.
Counselor Deckard,
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz,
Yes.
Counselor McKim. Counselor Iverson,
Yes.
Counselor Crossley.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for sticking with us.
Yeah.
Thanks for sticking with us.
Oh, you're
Yeah.
welcome. You can ask me what to say.
Nope.
Come on. At this rate. That brings us to item 14C. And that is the American Rescue Plan Act, additional appropriations that we have been tabling meeting to meeting to meeting in order to free up our ability to act if needed on any ARPA projects. We don't have any ARPA items tonight, and since we're going to have a meeting this week about ARPA, and our office is currently adjusting these amounts based on what we have appropriated. I'm not planning to table this item again, and we will re-advertise for new amounts. How does that sound? Everybody good with that? Okay. So we're just, checking this off like, okay, that was an open and closed announcement / discussion.
And I just wanted to add a little bit to that. I'm requesting that you table it, and that's because, or not to table it, because we're going to be doing some deappropriations at the beginning of September. And so I want to make sure that we capture those numbers and make sure that what we are advertising is, the correct amounts. And I know that we have appropriated numbers. So I want to give us a better idea of where we're actually at across the board.
So you want to start this with a clean slate?
Correct.
That makes sense. Yep. Okay, so that brings us to the things we moved, I believe.
Sure not.
Thank you. Moving back, yeah. Are there any department updates? Are there any departments still out there with us at all? No, I don't blame you a bit. It's been a while. It's been a slog. If there is anybody who representing a department who would like to give an update, this is your time. Okay. Are there council liaison updates? Everybody's too tired, too worn out. I will mention that we received an email or two announcing the ability for folks to provide comment on our CDO. The planning department is holding a series of open house type listening sessions. Don't have that pulled up in front of me, but they're Tuesdays and Thursdays in a couple weeks for a couple weeks.
Yes.
And please check the planning department's web page for that information.
That
Yes.
is monroecdo.com.
Yes.
Thank you.
That is a fantastic website.
And they're on Zoom, so you can see them on Zoom. You
That's
don't have to
true.
attend in person.
Yeah, thank you for supporting me and remembering that announcement. Counselor McKim has his hand raised. So Counselor McKim?
Oh, yeah, sorry, my video is glitching. Okay, sorry, this is actually as the liaison to the solid waste management board, district board, I thought I would come back to the question that came up during the tax abatement application, and I did get an answer on the cap on recycling of the plastic caps. And indeed, our current recycling provider does not want loose plastic caps, wants them attached to the plastic bottle that they were originally attached to and recycled. So that's not necessarily universal in the industry, but that is the preference of our current provider. But they are fully recyclable if they're still screwed onto the bottle or jar.
Thank you for checking on that. I appreciate that.
I have not been doing that, and I will now amend my practices.
Gotta put your lids back on.
Wow.
So let's talk about it very plainly. The caps should be screwed onto the bottles and even small jars before these
Tossing it.
clean jars and bottles are recycled.
Rinse it out, put the cap back on, then put it in
Oh,
recycling.
don't be like Peter.
Don't be like me.
Oh, man. Okay.
Any other liaison updates? Thanks again, Jeff. Counselor Decker, did you have? You did not. I thought. Oh, it was Jeff. Got it. Anybody else? Okay, so that takes care of those two items. Let me go back here. Council comments, in case you want to step out of your liaison role and just make a comment. Nothing.
I would just like to congratulate the people of Guatemala. That was a really exciting election that happened on Sunday. So congratulations, Guatemala.
You crack me
They
up.
voted for their, well, all right, I'm just gonna leave it at that.
Okay, with that, I will adjourn our meeting. Thank you all.
Okay.
Thank you.